just changing the name. We're going to change the process a little bit, and we're just going to shift the way we think about these to eliminate some confusion and to hopefully add some statewide consistency. So the goal of this whole shift is really to get rid of that confusion. Confidence points have become the constructed grade checkpoint and method, and people were using the confidence point evaluation method on constructed grade, and it just wasn't working out. We were getting every PM office across the state could apply the old spec however they wanted, and it really led to some statewide inconsistency, and we're hoping we'll be able to reduce that inconsistency, reduce the contractor's risk when they bid these jobs. They'll know exactly what's going to happen in any office they go to, and hopefully we're going to increase our quality control and our quality assurance on these projects. So how did we get there? The process is everybody hearing me? Raise your hand if you're hearing me. All right. How did we get there? This has been a 2-year process almost. We had a confidence point committee, and we had 10 to 12 people working on that committee most of the time, from contract admin, the specifications unit, the engineering automation section was represented. We had some people sitting in from the PM offices. It was really a wide-ranging group of people all working together to try to come up with an answer for what we called our confidence point problem. But it kind of caused a ripple effect that led to a much bigger piece that we had to tackle. At one point we had 26 pages of proposed changes, and we saw this very interconnected web of parts and pieces that had to be changed all at once. We ended up with 4 changes in the actual specs book. We made changes to the construction survey manual for contractors, and we made changes to the ODOT construction manual. And we decided to just publish all these changes all at once and make just one big change and push it through to the end. The first big change we made was to the SP 305, the special provisions for construction surveying, and we called out 3D engineered models right on the front page of the SP 305. We really have been pushing to include 3D models in everything we do, and they're now being included in all the eBids packages, and they're being shared with the construction survey handoff. And we've kind of taken the 3D model out of the shadows and just put it right on the face of the document. The way we were doing things was fine, it was working, but we were going to eventually have a claim that involved a 3D model, and it was going to blow up the whole system as we were doing it. But now we have a way to work through the process of dealing with a change in the 3D model, and everything should be a little smoother in the future. So what actually changed on the SP 305? Well, we required a close the loop for the 3D model right on the 305 spec. And the designers have been wanting this closed loop for quite a while, but it didn't come out exactly as we had planned. We're already looking to make a few revisions to this change, so be expecting some minor tweaks to the 305 spec. And this is an effective specification. It's been through all the change process, and it's on every contract that went to advertisement after April 1st. So after the 305, we realized we had to change some other parts of the spec book. We made a change in the 140s to the scope of work. We added it to the list of items that could be changed that wouldn't affect the contract. We made some changes in the 110s. Those are the definitions. We added the definition of a 3D engineered model and a 3D construction model. And the difference between the two is the engineer model is the model of record created by ODOT or our consultant. And the construction model is the model that the contractor has developed, made, changed to put into his equipment. And there is a distinction between the two. The contractor, they change their models to fit their equipment, to fit the way they're going to do the work. So they're not the model of record, but they are a model that is out there. Then we also changed the 150s, and I think this is the biggest change in this whole change process. We added the 3D model to the order of precedence. And before we had no digital items on there in the order of precedence, and now we do. And as we build confidence in these digital models, I think it's going to move up. Right now it's pretty far down on the list. It doesn't supersede the paper plans. But I think we're going to eventually start moving it up the ladder to be a controlling item in the contract. And I don't think that's as far off as you may think. We had a peer exchange this winter with some other states that have piloted that last summer, and it was pretty successful for a lot of groups. So I'd like to see ODOT pilot a 3D model contract in 2018. So it's coming. So the plan for all those specs is to have them in the 2018 spec book. Right now they're being attached just by a boilerplate special provision, but they're going to all be in the 2018 book. And so any contract after April 1st has these particular specs in them. So then after the specs, what did we do next? We started working on the construction survey manual for contractors. And really that's where this all started. We thought we would just make some tweaks to the construction survey manual for contractors and change how we talk about confidence points and grade verification points. But there was too much to handle in just that document, and it affected so many things. So there's a new version of the construction survey manual for contractors, and it's online currently, and it was attached to all contracts that had an advertisement date on or after January 9th. So it should be on all contracts that were started this year. And we got a whole new chapter in the manual, chapter 8, and it's a pretty big change in how we think about grade verification, but it's not much of a change in how we actually collect the points and work with the points. We did test it out on the Oregon 62 project with the White City office. They came to an agreement with the contractor just on a handshake to use the new method last summer, and they collected all their grade verification points using the new method. They really had no problems at all. For the contractor side of things, not much changes. What does change is we increase the density of the points. So we're going to define two areas. One is within the subgrade area, and we're going to ask them to get 1 point per 500 square feet, and that is twice as many as they were getting in the past. And then we've added outside the subgrade area will be 1 point for 1,000 square feet. And it may seem like a big change. We've doubled their points, but we looked at the stats for quite a few contracts that have gone the last few years, and what we saw was most contractors were already giving us more than 1 per 500 square feet. So now we have it quantified. We're asking for what we want, and we hope we get really better results and a better check of what we're getting. The old stats left a lot of, we were paying for a lot of area with very few points. And the thought was that if we just increase the density, increase the number of points we're requiring, we'll have a better gauge of what is actually being constructed and what we're actually paying for. So on that same note, we added some new field codes. They're on the new field code list, and I'll send that out at the conclusion of this meeting. They've been out since January. They're GVP A, B, C, and D, and they all have a matching tolerance. The first one is the 1/4 inch spec, basically. The second one is the 1/2 inch. The third one is the 3/4 inch. And then the fourth one doesn't really apply to a set tolerance for a constructed item, but we put it in there to allow people to have another tolerance for rougher material construction, kind of a catch-all for everything else. Mostly the things outside the subgrade that we've been measuring. And you'll notice they don't correlate at all to the confidence points that we've been using for our original ground model. That was never the intention of the confidence points to become a construction tolerance. The confidence points were just to check that original ground model to see if it fit, to see if our quantities were going to be okay. But for constructed grade, we need to use the tolerance that's spelled out in the spec book for each type of material, each type of construction, each location. So we're really trying to separate the two setups. And there's a revised workflow for processing grade verification points. And East has set up a workflow. It's almost identical to the confidence points. You import the points the same way. You process them the same way. You just use a different style sheet. And they symbolize differently than confidence points. And I'll send out the document that I've linked there at the bottom at the conclusion of the presentation. And it's a very simple workflow. If you've been doing confidence points before, if you've been checking constructed grade using the confidence points report, it's almost the same. We just changed the names and the numbers. So after we tackled the construction survey manual for contractors, we realized we needed to change the construction manual. And we added a method for evaluating these grade verification points. The survey manual alone didn't really do much. It just changed the names and the rate of collection. And we took out all mention of a test procedure in the construction survey manual, and we moved it into the construction manual. That's where most of our other test methods are discussed. We talk about all the testing in the construction manual. And the contractors really don't need to test these points. That's ODOT's responsibility. So it made sense to move it out of an instruction manual for the contractors and put it into the instruction manual for ODOT. And so that's what we did with the changes to the construction manual. And we added a big item in the construction manual, and that's a requirement for ODOT to do some quality assurance. So we've been doing quality assurance on almost all the other items and materials that the contractor tests. ODOT always does quality assurance on top of that. And so we're going with that same philosophy here with our grade verification points. If the contractor is expected to collect 100 shots for a certain area, ODOT should be getting 5 to 10 shots in that same area. How this is going to be done, this is going to be the biggest area of change in all of these specs. Our inspector is going to be getting them. Our PM office surveyor is going to get them. Are the region staff going to have to go out and get them? Are we going to have to hire a third-party contractor surveyor that's not working for the contractor? Maybe. We might use a combination of all of those. But we want somebody working directly for ODOT to be collecting these quality assurance points to make sure we're getting what we are paying for. Our responsibility to meet the Federal Highways expectations and requirements for using trust fund dollars, we really have to kind of step it up to meet what they want. And this system of doing 5 to 10% QA was run by Federal Highway. They agreed to it as a best practice, as a good idea, as a requirement for ODOT. But I think this is where we're going to see the biggest change in how we do our work. So what's next after all these changes were made? Well, we're going to have to try it out for a summer, try it out for a construction season, and see how things are working. And then we'll evaluate and make some changes and come back around and adjust the specs if it's just not working. We're already going to be making a few tweaks to the SB 305 spec. It didn't come out exactly as we thought it was going to, so we're going to make those changes right away. We're going to tackle some of the other measurable tolerance specs. We have a lot of materials, a lot of parts of the job that we don't have a tolerance on that we can measure to. It's to line and grade, or it's per plan. Well, what does that mean measurement-wise, survey-wise? We're going to try to take all the fractional measurements and turn them into decimals. We measure in decimals. We don't go out there and measure with our total station and our GPS in fractional inches. We've changed quite a few of them already. I think we had 6 or 7 specific specs changed from fractions to decimals already. We have a few more to get to. And then we're just going to have to see how this flows and see what changes we need to make and how it's being applied in the field, how the quality assurance points are being collected. And if it's not working for ODOT, if it's not working for the contractor, that's what we need to know. We need to make the changes so we can get the job done the way we're supposed to get the job done. So at the end, we'll open it up for questions, and you'll be able to ask all your questions and have some discussion about all these topics. So now I'm going to move into something a little lighter than specifications and tolerances. Got to give a quick tablet update. I've been all over the state in the last few months, and I may have made it to all the PM offices except for Troutdale. I drove by it, but I didn't stop. Coquille and Pendleton. But I made it to all the other offices, and maybe on my next road trip I'll get those 3 missing offices. So what's the current status of the project? It's still somewhat of a pilot project. We have 40 tablets out there. I've trained about 100 people, and the tablets are in all 15 construction offices, including Coquille, Troutdale, and Pendleton. They have tablets. I just didn't deliver them personally. So I've been providing training to all the people that get a tablet, and as they get used more, we're going to know what areas we need to train additionally, what I need to drop from my training, how people are using them. It's really going to be helpful this summer to get some feedback, because half of the PM offices just got the tablets this spring. So this is their first year, this will be their first construction season of using them. And I'm still providing direct support to the inspectors. helping them set up their projects, helping them configure their data, going out doing hands-on training on their project sites. I'm kind of a one-man show for the tablets at this point. But hopefully we're going to hire another support person in our unit here, and we'll get a lot more ability to go out and help and assist. But on top of the construction offices, we've also had a few non-construction, non-inspectors get their hands on the tablets. We have a tablet in a district maintenance office. The pavements unit has one. A sign designer has one. A utility specialist just got one. And a geoenvironmental unit just got one. And you're going to, as surveyors, we're going to see some of the data that some of these people collect. Some of these groups are just using them totally by themselves for their own in-house use. You're never going to see the data they collect. But the geoenvironmental people, that's where you're going to see some of this data. They're going to want that data attached to their base map, or attached to your base map that you've owned all along. And this is potentially the most disruptive and most dangerous area I've gotten into with getting other people to collect data that they want to put into the base map. So we've gone over a lot of training with them, a lot of best practices, but I have a lot of work to do in that small area to make sure it works, to make sure the data they collect is legitimate, is real, and can be trusted. Just because you can push buttons and get coordinates doesn't mean you're doing the right thing, and doesn't mean you have good data. So how good is the data? How accurate is it? The tablets can be used two ways, really. Handheld, where you just hold the tablet in your hand, and you can put it on a rover pole and look like any other surveyor. And handheld, they're about 2/10, 3/10. You're limited by your ability to position the tablet. So if you set it on the ground, you can get the exact same number as if you had it on the rod. But you can't always set it down. It's not practical to set it down all the time. And sometimes when you set it down, you lose all your satellites because you're now standing on top of it. So I always say 2 to 3/10 when you're holding it by hand. But if you put it on a rover pole, I will challenge you that it's got the same accuracy as any network RTK equipment. So 400s horizontally by 700s vertically. And if you want to take two measurements spaced out with time, you can get an average, and they're repeatable. The numbers are defendable. And the way I have them configured, I have it locked out so they can't collect data unless certain tolerances are met. And right now I have the tolerances set pretty tight for RTK data collection. I have it set at 1/10 for horizontal and 1/10.5 for vertical for their instantaneous standard deviation. And it's pretty good. It won't let you get a bad shot by the standard deviations. You can still get a bad shot from multipath, from other errors, from putting in the wrong coordinates or wrong coordinate system. There's still areas for blunders and error, but just walking around waving it in the air, you're not going to be able to collect data until you stand still, hold steady, have a good solution coming from the ORGN, and make an effort to take good data. And then all the measurements it collects and all the data it collects, it stores the errors associated with them. So you can always go back, look at the numbers, see what quality data you are getting. And it's pretty good stuff. I would trust it if I had trained the person myself, if I saw the errors associated with the numbers they were gathering. And you can build that trust by checking it. And so what are people using them for? We're getting all sorts of uses. A lot of things I hadn't initially thought of. We train them to do positioning on construction sites, get their station and offset, collect some shots, check a surface. But people quickly figured out that they could measure almost anything that they were measuring before with a wheel or a tape. They can measure with GPS. They're not trying to replace a total station when we need a total station to come in and collect data, but they're replacing their wheel and their tape measure or guesstimates with GPS measurements. And they're full computers, so they're also using them for productivity uses that we hadn't thought of either. But we're having areas collected for clearing, grubbing. We've had people do stockpiles, utility locates. Just a lot of stuff has come up where people will call and say, hey, can I use it for this? Or I'll talk to them after they've had it for a while. They say, oh, we've used it for all these different tasks that we hadn't initially thought of, and it's worked great. We collect the data, we bring it back to the construction designer in the office, we check it against the model, we check it against the plans for position, and it's really paying dividends to be able to collect data real time right now out in the field. And we've also put some other software on them. They can have their basic document editing software, some spreadsheet editing. They can view their PDFs. We just put Google Earth on it. The tablets will export directly to Google Earth, so people can check things immediately against Google Earth, make sure they're in the right location. You can email somebody a Google Earth file, and anybody can open it that has Google Earth on their computer or their tablet. You can put the MicroStation viewer on there so people can interact with the digital drawings. And they're Windows 7 computers. So as time goes on, we're gonna find more software that is helpful. But they're still just a survey tool. They're not on the ODOT network. They're not a network device. You can't do your ODOT email or get onto ProjectWise or get to your network drives. They are a standalone survey device, much like your survey data collector. They're a computer, but they're not a ODOT computer. And we're really pushing them to be a tool that helps, not a tool that wastes your time, gets in the way, or makes things harder. So I tell them, try it for 5 minutes. If it's not working, if it's making your job harder, give it up, go back to the way you've always done it, and just put the tablet away for another day. It shouldn't make things harder. And that's my presentation. But now I'm sure we have quite a few questions, and I'll try to answer everything the best I can.
Thank you for attending this, our second webinar. And as Chris said, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact him. His contact information was on the previous slide. Thank you.